Hello, my name is Graham Gaither. I'm a part of the compliance team here at the Native American Agriculture Fund. In this video, we're going to go over grant modification requests. We'll go over how you fill out the forms and some of the ins and outs and the complexities in filling out this form as it relates to your grant agreement. So first things first, if you're interested in modifying your project, you are able to modify the project narrative, length, and budget. Before you submit or request a modification, please talk to your point of contact, your POC, to discuss strategies to drive your project in the direction you're wanting it to go. Chances are that you are able to alter the project internally rather than having to fill out one of these modification forms. The reason I say that is modification forms, once they are requested and submitted, it does take time for us to create an internal form for our CEO to review and get you an answer as to whether your modification request was accepted or denied. And so discuss strategies with your POC, and they should be able to tell you if a modification form is required. Now, the first things that we'll do is log in to Foundit. And once you have, you will arrive here at your dashboard. You'll notice that we have the word sandbox all around the background here. And that's because I'm not using our live site so as to not infringe on any of the actions going on with our grantees. And so I'll be conducting this particular video from Gramco, my fictional organization. Once you're here at your dashboard, you can find a grant modification request once it has been assigned to you in your follow-up form section. Just go all the way to the right under Edit and View and click Edit on the row that says Grant Modification Request. Once you've done that, we have arrived at the form itself. Now, as I said, my fictional company, Gramco, is going to be our example. And in this particular case, I am a 501c3. And I've applied for and received funding for our targeted 501c3 pool. If you have one grant with us, then select whichever category you have applied and received funding under. But we do have applicants and grantees that have multiple categories that they have received funding for. Please use one form per category. So if you have 4 different projects, please use one form per project. Now, right here we have project number. You can find that on your grant agreement at the top of your agreement. I'm going to put in a fake number. This will be demo 20-0001. Each project will have its own unique number. The first section we're going to talk about is the project narrative. The project narrative describes the route that you're taking to get to your deliverables. So when you're modifying your project narrative, you are not changing your deliverables, rather you are changing how you get to those deliverables. So for example, when COVID-19 hit, lots of projects were changed because instead of being able to do, for example, in-person classrooms, things had to go virtual. And so a 2-week intensive in-person course on ranching could have turned into an 8-week virtual course on ranching. You're still getting the same content being delivered to your audience, but in a different way. And so we'll use that same example here. Select yes on changing project narrative. Click in the text box and provide an updated description of the nature of services to be provided. Also include objectives, activities, milestones, and outcomes. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to keep things very light and very short and say, due to COVID-19, all in-person classes have been moved to a virtual space. Classes were 2 weeks in person and will now be extended to 8 weeks virtually. When we get a real modification request from you, please do provide a very detailed narrative, because this narrative that you place within this box will, for all intents and purposes, replace the narrative in your grant agreement. So do feel free to copy and paste your narrative from your grant agreement into this box, as well as your objectives, activities, milestones, and outcomes, and then alter what's going to be changed. We do provide a space at the bottom of the form for you to summarize what those changes are. Next, we have project length. Automatic approval is granted for an extension of 3 months, but an extension of 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months will require a review from our CEO for approval or denial. In terms of extending your project length, it is a no-cost extension, meaning that your budget will not be affected by this extension. It comes at no cost to you as our grantee. And so if you're interested in acquiring an extension, select yes, and then select whichever option you're interested in. Now, for this demonstration, Gramco is operating on a 12-month original project length, and I'm asking for a 9-month extension for a new total of 21 months. And then finally, we have our project budget. When modifying your project budget, this does not mean that you are modifying your total amount. You are not adding or subtracting any amount of funding from your amount as stated in your grant agreement. This is purely to move amounts and funding from one line item to another, or from multiple line items to other line items. This has a little bit of complexity to it because, as stated in your grant agreement, throughout the term of your grant, you are allowed to move up to 20% of a line item. And so if you are interested in moving, say, 15% from travel into supplies, you do not need a modification. You can do that internally. Please keep notes and mark that, because we will ask during quarterly reports if you've made internal modifications to your budget without requesting a modification form from us. Please do keep track of all that. And so let's use that same example. You've done 15%. Now you're interested in doing another 6%. Well, it is additive. So you have officially gone over 20%. 15 plus 6 is 21. That would require going into Foundant and filling out a budget modification. And so you'll see here, new budget and NAF budget modification template. This template is used to help simplify the process of tracking your increases and decreases for your new budget. And so to access this, right-click and save link as. This should be this exact same regardless of your browser. I've already got a form filled out, but I'll go ahead and save it anyway. And then you can access that. We'll click Open File. Okay. First things first, you always want to click Enable Editing. It's definitely a pain to try and do something on an Excel file. You can't even do anything. So the first thing you might notice is that we have these highlighted areas. The way that this template works is the highlighted areas have existing formulas inside of them that help keep track of everything. So the parts that you want to fill out are these white cells that have these dashes. Dashes represent zeros. So as we begin to fill this out, you'll see how it all starts to automatically calculate. If you need to add a line item, then you are given 4 right here, and you can copy and insert copied cells for additional line items. So let's go ahead and start. Let's say that I am the first person at Gramco, so my salary is, let's be generous here, $80,000. And once that's entered automatically here within our totals and our grand total here. Okay. And I have an administrative assistant making $50,000. All this stuff starts to add up. We originally had $10,000 for travel and $2,000 for supplies. I'm interested in moving all of this travel, or almost all of it, into the supply section. And so I will click, let's say $9,000 in the decrease column. Oh, well, now we have these little hashes. Don't worry, nothing wrong. It just means the cells are a little bit too narrow. Double click right up here between cells C and D, or you can drag manually and it'll show up. Okay, and we always need our decrease and our increase to be the same. As I mentioned, budget modifications are not to change your total amount. And so your original budget and new budget total should always be the same. Right now there's a $9,000 difference, so we're going to put that $9,000 in our supplies. And there we go. We now have the exact same amount down here, same amounts over here, and these right here all come from these cells. So that's why we don't want to change anything in these darker or lighter green cells, because it'll automatically will come into these total cells here. And that's all you need to do. I've officially modified my budget by reducing my travel, putting that into my supplies. Now, the final thing I will mention is that you must turn this into a PDF and upload that PDF. And so to do that, go up to this upper left corner, click on File. You can either do Save As and save it as a PDF, or they now have a Save As Adobe PDF option. Either one of those will create a PDF file, which you can then upload into Fountain. Okay, to do that, go to Upload a File. And for the purposes of this video, I've got a test page. Next, you'd upload a new budget narrative. That updated budget narrative can be a copy and paste of your old budget narrative, but you must describe the changes that you made. So for example, in my new budget narrative, I would say the new amounts, and the narrative reasons as to why I have changed the items that I changed. In this case, we're going with COVID-19. Travel bans made it so that I was unable to do my in-person meeting and had to do it all virtually. So I moved funds from travel to supplies, and the supplies line item will now be used to purchase additional computers and hotspots so that the folks I'm going to give the class to can receive it at home. Okay. Finally, we come to our grant modification explain section. And this is where you will put the meat and potatoes of what exactly it is you're changing. Keep in mind that we are going to be using all of your responses within this form, to create a review form for our CEO. Once our CEO has approved or denied your modification request, that internal form will be placed in Documents on Foundin. So you'll be able to see everything that is placed on that form. Okay, so for reasons for modification, I'm going to put narrative. COVID-19 caused in-person gatherings to cease. So classes have moved to virtual. Okay, blank. Requested a 9-month extension to set up classes. And budget. Moved funding from travel to supplies to purchase laptops and internet hotspots for attendees. Mine are pretty short. Please do provide a little bit more detail, and we do give you 1,000 characters, so we don't expect a ton, but definitely a little bit more than this. And there you go. Within this small amount of time, we have filled out every piece of a grant modification form. And you can click Save Follow-up if you'd like to go back in and edit it again, if you want to stew on it and see if there's anything else that you need or want to change. And if you're ready, you'll click Submit Follow-up. That will place the follow-up form from the Assigned category into the Submitted category. Once it has been placed in the Submitted category, it will be reviewed by our compliance team. And if it is complete, meaning that it has everything filled out the way it needs to be, then we will move it to the Complete category and start reviewing. If we notice that you are missing a budget narrative or a budget, or that you're not complete in filling out the pieces of the form, then we will mark it incomplete and email you with the things that need to be done to mark it complete and start reviewing. Thank you for watching this video, and have a great day.